Have you ever noticed how your beats feel amazing loud, but they kind of fall apart when you turn the volume down? That's not a mixing problem, it's a listening problem. In today's episode, we're talking about how to make lo-fi that actually holds together at low volume, where your listeners actually live.
You're listening to the Lofi Music Academy podcast, your go-to space for all things lo-fi. Sit back, relax, and let's dive into the world of lo-fi music production.
Hi, and welcome to the Lofi Music Academy podcast. I'm Spencer J, your guide through the chilled out, atmospheric world of lo-fi beats. Today's episode is about something that doesn't sound flashy, doesn't show up in big YouTube titles, and rarely gets talked about, but it quietly separates good lo-fi tracks from great ones. And that's learning how to make lo-fi that actually works at low volumes. Because when you really step back and think about how lo-fi is used, it's almost never played loud. It's on while someone's studying late at night, working, reading, or just trying to calm their mind. It lives underneath life rather than sitting front and centre, and that changes how your music needs to function. So in this episode, I want to slow things right down and really sit with what low volume listening reveals about your music and your track, and why learning to produce for quiet listening can completely reshape how you make your music today. There's a moment every producer recognises, even if they don't talk about it much. You're looping your beat, things feel good, you're enjoying the vibe, and then you turn the volume down, maybe to answer a message, maybe just instinctively, and suddenly the track feels smaller, the drums lose weight, the melody feels thinner, the whole thing feels like it's barely holding on together. Now that moment can feel really discouraging, but it's actually one of the most honest moments in music production. Low volume doesn't flatter your music. It doesn't exaggerate excitement or hide the imbalance. It simply shows you what's really there all along. If a track only works when it's loud, it's relying on volume to carry it, not balance, structure or feel. And lo-fi, more than almost any other genre, exposes that really quickly. There's a common misconception that background music is easier to make. In reality, it's often harder. Music that sits in the background can't rely on surprise or intensity. It has to feel stable, has to feel emotionally safe, and it has to earn its place by not demanding attention. And that's exactly what lo-fi is designed to do. When someone presses play on a lo-fi playlist, they're not asking to be impressed, they're asking to be supported. And low volume listening is where that contract between the producer and the listener either holds up or totally falls apart. If your track feels distracting or uneasy when it's quiet, that usually means something is competing for attention, and it really doesn't need to be there. Mixing loud is seductive. When your speakers are turned up, everything feels exciting. Bass feels fuller, drums feel punchier, even simple ideas feel more dramatic than they actually are. But loudness lies. It hides clutter, it hides imbalance, it hides emotional tension. When you listen quietly, all that padding disappears. And what's left is the core of the track, the groove, the harmony, the emotional weight. If all those things aren't solid and the track collapses. This is why low volume listening is such a powerful teacher. It forces your music to stand up on its own without any help. At low volume, your ears behave differently. They don't respond evenly across the spectrum. They focus on the mid-range. And that's where human hearing is most sensitive. That's where chords live, melodies live, and warmth lives. This is why so many tracks that sound great loud feel empty when they're quiet. Deep subs feel impressive loud, but vanish when the volume drops. Shimmering highs feel excited loud, but they disappear when it's quiet. Another way to think about the mid-range is this. It's where the track actually communicates. At low volume, listeners aren't consciously hearing bass or sparkle, they're feeling the mood. A mood lives where harmony, tone and texture all overlap. A simple chord progression with the right tone can still feel rich when quiet, while an overproduced track can feel hollow. A lot of producers accidentally hollow out their mid-range, chasing clarity. They carve clean and polish until everything sounds professional. But in the process, they remove the glue that keeps the track present at low volumes. Lo-fi doesn't need to be pristine, it needs to be present. And when the mid-range is strong, your track doesn't disappear when it's quiet, it gently rests in the room. In lo-fi, drums have a very specific job. They're not there to dominate, they're not there to impress. They're there to quietly carry time. At low volume, sharp transients disappear quickly. What remains is tone, body and consistency. That's why lo-fi drums often feel soft, rounded and slightly worn. What's interesting is that when lo-fi drums are done right, you almost don't notice that they're there. But if you mute them, the whole track falls apart. That's a good sign. At low volume, drums stop being about rhythm and start being about reassurance. They're quietly telling the listener, you're safe here, everything's moving forward. Overly sharp modern drum sounds tend to demand attention, even when they're quiet. So softer drums are easier to listen for long periods of time. When your drums work quietly, they stop sounding like drums and start becoming part of the actual atmosphere of the song. Low volume listening reveals emotional clutter instantly. When too many elements are competing, the track feels restless. When there's constant movement, it can feel anxious. What felt interesting at full volume can feel exhausting when it's quiet. And lo-fi that actually works quietly usually feels more emotionally settled. There's space, there's patience, there's no need to rush or prove anything. One of the biggest lessons quiet listening teaches is restraint. Little fills feel louder emotionally when the volume is low. Constant automation becomes distracting. Subtle tension becomes obvious. This doesn't mean that you're making boring music. It means you're making music that knows exactly what it's meant to be. Sometimes the most powerful decision you make is to remove something and let the track breathe. Once you start trusting low volume listening, something shifts in how you produce. You stop chasing loudness to feel confident. You stop over-processing to feel productive. You start listening for balance instead of impact. And this is where a lot of producers quietly level up. They stop second-guessing everything. They finish more music. They make better decisions based on feel rather than fear. And quiet listening trains patience. And patience is one of the most underrated skills in music production. When you can sit with a track quietly and still enjoy it, you know you're creating something honest. And that skill doesn't stay in just lo-fi, it follows you into everything you make. So here's your encouragement after this episode. Don't just turn your music up to see if it hits, turn it down to see if it holds. If your track still feels warm, grounded and intentional when it's quiet, then you're definitely building something solid. Lo-fi isn't meant to shout, it's meant to sit with people. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider subscribing, leaving a review or sharing it with fellow music producers who might find it useful. Until next time, keep creating, stay inspired and remember, it's all about the vibe. Take care and see you in the next episode.
Thanks for tuning in to the Lofi Music Academy podcast. If you're ready to start making lo-fi music and want to go even deeper, grab your free guide. Discover the 6 essential steps to create a release-ready lo-fi track from scratch. Whether you're using budget gear in your bedroom or a small home studio, this guide will help you get that polished, dreamy lo-fi sound you're after. Just go to www.lofimusicacademy.com. Until next time, keep creating those laid-back vibes, and don't forget to subscribe for more lo-fi tips and tricks.